Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of From Page to Stage. I'm your host, Wendy Corner, and this podcast is for you if you're an entrepreneur. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you're an author, and you may not have thought about it that way. You might have a solo book out, you might have an anthology book out, you may have a blog. But if you're an entrepreneur, I can guarantee you are on socials, aren't you? What's that if it's not a form of published work? So you're already an author. Go you. What about the stage? This is From Page to Stage. So when are you talking? Are you talking at networking meetings? Are you talking on podcasts? Are you talking on lives? Are you talking on virtual stages? Are you talking on physical stages? They are all stages. Welcome to From Page to Stage. Now, today I am really excited because I'm introducing you to a lovely lady called Martha Burich. Have I said that right?
Yes, you have.
Good. Martha Burich, who hails from the USA. Now, we are so excited about this. Yesterday, her book got published. Martha, can you flash it up for us so we can have a look at it? How exciting is that? This was literally yesterday out on the shelves. So, Martha, tell us a bit more about yourself. I could introduce you, but you know yourself so much better than I do. Tell us a bit about yourself and how you got to where you are now.
Sounds definitely like a plan. Well, who am I? Who am I? And how did I get here? And what the heck is going on? Why did I write that book? Who am I? What a question that is. Who are you? Well, because our lives are so intertwined, our lives are so filled with different things, it's hard to condense it down. So who am I? I always make a joke. I'll tell you who I am. Mom always loved my brother better. So we start with that. Mom loved my brother better, the whole sibling rivalry thing, which sometimes I say as a joke, sometimes I don't, because I deal with parenting, and anytime you have more than one child, you do deal with that.
Yeah.
Yes. So who am I? I was a child psychology professor, retired now. I was a high school science teacher, and I learned a lot about human behavior in those two positions. Also, I've been involved in self-esteem since, I think my son was 6. I was in the self-esteem club in 1988. Jack Canfield, his very beginnings. He used to come to Missouri and give his seminars, self-esteem 1, 2, and 3, which I took all 3. And then I went to Canada. Jack gave a seminar to the Raymond Aaron Millionaires Club in Canada, and I accompanied Jack and some other people who had been through all of his seminars as helpers. So that was a lot of fun. So I've been involved in self-esteem and relationships from the beginning. In college, I was specialized in behavior modification.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, changing behavior for the better, how to treat people humanely. Just recently, I read the book by Monty Roberts, The Horse Whisperer, and it's really interesting how Roberts' techniques and the techniques of good parenting really match, because what you want to do is you want to look at people's body language and their whole demeanor, and that's how you tell if you're on the right track. And I'm a big proponent, violence is really not necessary. Violence is not necessary. It isn't needed to teach me anything. If I screw up, you don't need to hit me. Just tell me what I did wrong and how I can do it better. So I really, that's really me in a nutshell. I was married for 25 years. My husband died, 3 weeks diagnosis, liver cancer, 3 weeks diagnosis to death. We had one child, Anthony, and he's all grown up now, has his own business. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, Martha, I'm sorry to hear the circumstances of your husband's passing, because that's a bit of a shock. 3 weeks. Yeah, sorry to hear that. Okay, so we've got a lovely section around human behavior. I'm getting the idea that this is your passion, this is your core being, that human behavior, how we tick from the little people up to the big people. Excellent. You were saying about the non-verbal stuff, the body language. there are statistics out, and I'm sure you're familiar with the Mehrabian study, that 7% is verbals, 38% is vocals, and 55% is visuals. That was specifically around conveying emotion, but those are the stats that everyone quotes. I tend to go on I round up because my maths isn't ever so good. So I do the 10% verbals, 40% vocals, 50% visuals. But you're right, it's all those non-verbal stuff, at least 90% of which we convey our communication. And that's so important. Love it.
You know, there's a book called The Gift of Fear. Gavin de Becker, he was a personal security guard for stars and everything. He wrote this book probably at least 30 years ago. Anyway, it's still very popular. But he tells you that your intuition is very important and do not discount it. And if you think that there's someone that you don't want to be around, then don't be around them. And if you are walking somewhere and you suddenly feel like, well, I need to turn around, or, you know, and you can even tell when you're driving, there's so much intuition when you're driving. You know, I'll be driving and I'm like, I think that car next to me is going to veer in my lane. I just got a feeling. And I'll be darned. Yes, he does, because they give little cues that you notice as you're driving. So pay attention to your intuition. It's very important.
Absolutely. Because as you say, the intuition picks up things at an unconscious level long before the conscious mind goes, oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Great. Thank you for sharing that. So that you've given us a little bit about that. So your book came out yesterday. Congratulations. It's so exciting. There it is. Yay. Yes, you can raise happy and responsible children. Beautiful. Beautiful. So that's your solo work. Tell us about when you started writing. What prompted you to start writing in the very first place?
My son was, he was spoiled. My husband and I were miserable because we did not know how to say no. You know, we were young. We weren't that young, but we were first-time parents. Like most first-time parents, we were pretty clueless what was going on, and we wanted our baby to be happy. We wanted our son to be happy. And when I would say no, he would push, and then I'd say yes. So I did not know how to say no and mean no, and he knew that. But his dad was, we were all both a couple of pushovers. And my mother-in-law once said to me, you know, he'd really be a lovely child if he'd just take no for an answer. Well, we had kind of trained him that no didn't mean no. Yeah. And then my mother-in-law, you know, he was more persistent than we were, that's for sure. But anyway, so I took parenting lessons, and they totally changed our lives, made everything so much more wonderful, because I learned how to say no and mean it and not be mean about it, just to be firm, you know, and not have to be mean or yell or have a fit, just to be firm. And it really helped me. And it something else in the writing, you know, this book seemed to come out of me, I don't know, just when we talk about intuition, it just poured out of me. Just, you know, I just started writing and it popped up. And it's just a short little thing, 70 pages. And it's all bullet points. When you're at the grocery store, here's what you do. When you're traveling, here's what you do. You know, if your child has a tantrum, here's what you do. It's just little bullet points. It makes it easy. It's something you can stash in the diaper bag or in your purse, or throw it in the car and have it right there if you need it to look up something real quick. So yes.
It's very practical.
Yes.
So that's obviously what prompted you to write this particular book, but I want to take you back in time. When did you first start writing? The reason I'm asking this is because some of my guests have been writing since I had one lady who started when she was 4 and had a screenplay written at 7 and plays and all of this sort of thing. You think, oh my word. So I'm just curious as much as anything. When did you start writing originally?
Probably when I was in grade school. I like to write. I really like recording information, so I take really good notes and things. I've always had a journal of some type that I like to keep track of. One of my favorite things is I love to have a gratitude list. So I always have write down what I'm grateful for and think about what I'm grateful for, because I have been so fortunate. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, I got a flat tire. And guess where I got my flat tire? right in my driveway. I was so grateful. If you're going to get a flat tire, come on.
Yeah,
I was
best
very
place to do
grateful.
it.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So I try to find the silver lining in everything, and I think that that helps me with when I'm writing. I also I have this book finished, but I also wrote a book for teachers, and that one I'll be publishing next year.
Oh, that's answered another question further down the track. Whoa, was there another one coming out? Yes, there is. So this is particularly the book that we published yesterday. So that one is specifically about, there you go. That one's specifically for parents, isn't it?
It's really ages 2 to 20, 2 yeah, 2 to 20. Really
Oh
2 to
yes.
40, 2 to 40.
Yes, some of us do struggle to grow up, don't we? Mm.
Oh
But you're right.
goodness, don't we?
So that was the start. So writing has always been part of your being.
Right.
Journaling, I find, is that's a bit of a clue. A lot of people have said, well, I've journaled. That I had an interview with somebody earlier on today, and she was telling me that she had a diary with a lock on it, she remembers, so
Oh,
that nobody could read her diary as a
yeah.
teenager.
I had one of those too. Yeah. Yeah.
So good, so good. So that sort of, but with your journal, your diary, was it simply factual? Tuesday, the 28th of September, I did this, or
Right.
was
And
it
I
one that
feel, and here's
actually
how I
you
felt about
expressed
it.
yourself?
Yeah. Right. And here's how I felt about it. And
Yeah,
that was also part of the parenting lessons, was to keep a journal of the behavior and what you did and how it worked. And
right.
it was that was very, very helpful too.
Yeah. Well, that would have come in handy with your psychology stuff, because obviously
Mm.
ABC. Sorry, bit technical, folks. Antecedent behavior and consequences. I've been
Right.
involved with
Yeah.
psychology for years. But yes, so what happened to start with? What did you see? What was the consequences? Yeah, beautiful. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. So that was when you started to write. What prompted you to start writing? So I'm going to ask you, as this is from page to stage, tell us about your speaking journey.
Well, I love to speak. I absolutely love to speak. I talked at a few women's empowerment seminars. Those they travel around yearly, and I talked about parenting at those. I really love those. Also, I love to speak about parenting. I give a really great. I have a workshop. Um, you know, teaching young children to behave, which is a lot of fun. I also, I like to, another population that I like to serve besides parents are people who have addiction problems. So
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy speaking to that population because they need, just like parents whose children don't behave, the addicted population, they need hope because they've become
Yes.
hopeless. They don't know that they're ever going to be able to change. And just as I could change, my husband could change, we could change, and our son could change just by little bitty tweaks. You know what? Even the worst things, the worst addictions can be solved and stopped. Everything everything has a solution. You just have to decide if you're willing to do what you need to do to get that solution. Wendy, when
Yes.
I took the parenting courses, what was really interesting, it was an 8-week class, 1 hour a week, and it was all in person because it was several years ago. And I noticed every week they would say, okay, how'd you do? And they gave us one assignment every week. I think the first week was just notice what your child does good, because most of the time as parents, all we notice is what our child does wrong, because we think to be
Mm-hmm.
good parents, we're supposed to correct them. Well, it doesn't work that way. That makes things go all wrong. So
Mm-hmm.
what we did was we only focused on what the child did right. That was the first week. And just that first week changed the relationship. Boom, 180. But anyway, so I would come back every week, and they would say, how would it go? And I'd go, oh man, that really worked. That really worked. But then all the other parents, most of them would be like, nah, we tried, it didn't work. Nah, we tried it, it didn't work. And I thought, something's not adding up here. Why is it working for me? And it's not working. In fact, one woman dropped out. One woman dropped out. Her daughter was about 6. And I thought, okay, what's the difference? And I figured it out. The difference was I said to myself, you know what? These people tell me this works. And unless they tell me to hurt my son, I'm going to do what they tell me, because I would never hurt him verbally or physically. But, as long as I'm not hurting my son, I'm going to do what these people tell me. And if it doesn't work the first time, I'm going to keep doing it because they told me it works, and I'm going to make sure it works, and I'll be darned. It wouldn't work the first one or two times. By the third or fourth, I'd push and push, and for sure it would work. It would definitely work, and things changed. So that's a big life lesson. Don't quit. Persist if you really want it. Don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. Persist. Even Tony Robbins, what does he say? He says, most people they overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, and they underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years. Yeah, you know what? You're not going to be able to start a business in 10 days, honey, or even a month. It's going to take you a few months to get it all together. Just the learning curve alone is going to take a while. But we're also brainwashed to somehow think that everything happens immediately, that we quit before we start or the first time, you know how it is, 20 steps forward, 10 steps back, you know what I mean? And then we go
You do the
back a few steps,
cha-cha.
like, "Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, but we wind up going back a few and like, oh, I'm working so hard. I've been doing this and it's not working. Please,
Yeah,
stop being a baby. Just keep, tomorrow you'll go 2 steps, and guess what? The next day you'll go 2 steps, the next day you'll go 2 steps, and the day next, then you'll just go 1 step back. So you're going to go forward. Just don't quit, don't quit, don't quit.
exactly. And as you said, part of it is also believing that change is possible.
That's right.
Because if you go in with the idea of this, well, it may work, it may not,
Exactly.
then there's the ambivalence, there's the try thing. Well, I'm going to try and move my hand.
Yeah.
Well, you either, I mean, it's the classic Yoda thing, isn't it? You do or you don't do. There's no such thing as try.
That's right.
So, yeah.
That's right.
And you went into that parenting class with the firm belief that this is possible. If these guys tell me it works, I'm going to believe that, and I'm going to jolly well do it. Excellent.
And Wendy, I jolly well did it, and it jolly well worked.
Yeah, sorry, that's the Brit coming out in me. Beautiful, thank you. So you're speaking as you were teaching in school. Obviously, you had to stand up and teach.
Oh goodness, yes.
That's one style of speaking, isn't it?
Right. And to be a good teacher, you have to learn when people are becoming, you really have to pay close attention to that body language, which we've already talked about. Because once the students become disinterested, you've lost it. You've lost the information, you've lost them. So you have to be able to switch things up very quickly. And I was very good at that. If I noticed that, they weren't getting it one way, I would switch it up and we'd try it a different way. So I was able to keep their interest pretty much. There was nothing worse for me than sitting in a classroom where the teacher drones on and on. And in fact, when I taught child psychology at the college level, I replaced a man who did not have any children, and he had been teaching the course for like 30 years. I remember looking at his notes, and he would read from these notes in class. And students would come up to me and they would say, "Thank goodness you're here." Because I taught in a whole different level. For one thing, I had a small child. I had a little example. One day I had my students bring their small children to class. Oh, was that a riot? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, these little toddlers going up and down. Oh, it was a riot.
Point, isn't it? When you've got lived experience, it is a whole different ball game than theory only. And this is what, particularly in this day and age, a lot of people, I know a number of people who get hung up on the fact that, oh, I don't have this certification, I don't have that certification. I go, but have you got the lived experience? Well, yes. Well, yeah. School of Hard Knocks, School of the University of Life, call it what you will. The point is, you've lived it. And that's what people are really after these days, because they know, oh, you've been there, you know what it's like. Oh, as you showed.
I know a man who, when he was in grade school, he had attention deficit and some other, and I think dyslexia. And his teacher actually, I hope I don't cry, his teacher actually put him on a chair in front of the classroom with a dunce cap on his head. Can you believe the cruelty. He carried that his entire life. He did not graduate high school, of course not, but he got a GED. If anybody, I taught the GED test. Let me tell you, a lot of people who
Hang on.
graduate high school,
GED, for those of us who aren't based in the US, could you explain that,
general
please?
education degree, general education degree. So you get that in place of your high school diploma.
Okay.
And for one thing, the people that go after it, you have to be very, very, very dedicated, because you have to study for this test, and it's hard. It is hard. A lot of people who get a high school diploma cannot pass this test. It is hard. Well, anyway, he passed his test, which right there tells you he's smart, but he always thought he was dumb. So he went into construction trades. Do you know how hard it is to build a home, to repair things, to put things together? You know, a lot of people with a lot of book knowledge can't fix a toilet. Okay. So, you know, the fact that you can fix something is gigantic, absolutely gigantic. Anyway, this man's a genius. Well, anyway, he took a picture of, he had a list, a stack of like 14 books that he's reading, 14 books. And he said, you know, this is what I'm reading right now, or what I've been reading, and what I try to draw from. And I wrote to him and I said, boy, you know what? Your elementary and high school teachers owe you a gigantic apology. A gigantic apology.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you were saying about in the first thing you were advised to do with your parenting class was look for the good. I worked with adults with autism for a long time, and I remember one of the guys that I worked with, he was doing a double major in maths and physics at the most prestigious university in the state I lived in Australia. I won't say any more than that because it narrows it down quite significantly. And he told me I was broken. I said, I'm sorry, you're what? Broken. All the way through school, the things that he couldn't do had been told him, magnified, pointed out. And he had this nip, 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 nip on his shoulder. And so he thought he was broken. I said, no, you're doing a double major in maths and physics. Everything you just said has gone right over my head. You are not broken, mate. You are just thinking in a different way. He said, maths and physics are easy. Well, they are to you, but they're not to me.
That's right.
Really?
Exactly.
Yes, really. That was a revelation to him. This guy was 20. All the way through life, he'd been told he was broken. So you're right. You're absolutely right. We focus so much on the what's wrong with this picture. That's what we're always waiting for. Always waiting for the negative. And it's such a shame, isn't it?
Right. And we focus on the negative, and and we keep thinking that we have to improve. Okay, if you want to improve, but why don't you focus on the things you like to do and make those more fun, and make those more, you know, I don't know if it's schooling or what, Wendy, but okay, have you seen that cartoon where they've got an elephant and a bird and a frog, and they say, okay, here's our test today. Our test is who can climb that tree?
Yeah.
You know, well,
I have seen that one. It's ridiculous, isn't it? You play to your strengths.
That's right. We should play to
Sadly,
our strengths.
The education system, I'm not familiar with it in the US, but certainly in the UK where I grew up, the education system was set up in the Victorian era to educate good little factory workers.
That's right. Yeah.
And frankly, it hasn't changed.
Right.
The children aren't taught to think. They're taught to repeat and learn things by rote. And it's the classic thing. Outside the example, you're reading through, you're cramming. And as soon as you walk out, you've forgotten all of that because you're not going to need it again. Right. You only learnt it for the test.
Yeah.
How useful is that?
I had a student tell me, he said, you know, my mom says I'm not going to need this. And I said, well, you know, hon, your mother has a point, and the state says that you have to learn this good enough to pass the test to pass. You know, I understand exactly what you're talking about, but we still have to get you to a certain level. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. We could totally revamp the education system.
Yes.
Is that your next book?
Oh, and you know what? And I do want to talk about reading. You know, a child who's 1 year of age, by the time they're a year old, they know to turn the book the right way. So if this book was upside down, a 1-year-old would know to turn it correctly. Even if
Whoa.
it was just words, even if it was just words, they would be able to figure out the correct orientation of the words, a 1-year-old. Now, if your 1-year-old can't do that, don't worry about it. Don't push it. And then I want to mention this too. You know, all these charts and things where they say your baby's at the 50th percentile, the 80th percentile, all that is a gazillion kids all thrown into a pot, and all of their answers or responses. So, you know, height, if your child's in the 80th percentile, or not, well, you know, your child's very tall, weight, the whole thing. Well, people seem to think that in a lot of places they should be in the 50th percentile. No, that's average. That's average. That's just everybody thrown together in a big old pot. Your child is where your child is at that stage. One woman was concerned because her baby wasn't rolling over, and I think it was like 2 months or 3 months old, and she was trying to give it exercises. And I said, "What's the rush?" She goes, "Oh, there's no rush, but you know, the charts say." I said, "You know, for one thing, your baby's muscles have to develop. So your baby has to do other things before they're going to roll over. And maybe your baby doesn't want to roll over yet. Because when they want to roll over and their muscles are developed, they're going to roll, baby. And then you're going to have to redesign your entire house."
Oh, yes. Ah, yes, the joys. Not that I've had any, but yes, having seen other people with them. Exactly, exactly. So we've talked about what prompted you to start writing, and particularly this book, which came out yesterday. And then your teaching. So you had your teaching style of writing, of speaking. Obviously, your podcasting as well. Do you speak on virtual stages, physical stages? Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, I'm a guest on many stages, often, you know, podcasts and radio, and also on TV shows. I used to have my own show called Healthy Moments at bluewaterliving.com. I had that for a while during COVID. It was a lot of fun. And but now I've let other people take that over. But I would have a show. It was about 10 or 15 minutes, and I would talk about how we could have a good day. What do we do to have a good day? What do we do to have a good relationship? And oh, here's another tip. Um, just because you think it doesn't mean you need to say it. So if it isn't kind, you know, start thinking to yourself, if it isn't kind, if it isn't going to help the person, and if it isn't going to help your relationship, please don't say it. Keep it to yourself. And if you feel like they absolutely must know, say, "You know what? I have some advice for you. Would you like to hear it?" Then they can decide.
Permission only.
Mm-hmm. Permission
Yes,
only.
exactly. Okay, so we've spoken. The reason I'm mentioning these different flavors of speaking, if you like, is because they do have specific skill sets. They're complementary, but they are different. I'm going to give you another example. Audience, forgive me, I'm just going to butt in on this one as well. I've been the head speaker coach for the University of Western Australia TEDx team for 5 years. I'm not there this year because I'm on my travels. But the point is that we had one lady, because it's university based, it's very often faculty and or alumni who are the speakers. And I had one lady who was given to me in terms of coaching. And she said, "Wendy, I know how to speak. I've been lecturing for the last 25 years. I said, "You do, with a podium and a microphone, slides behind you and a captive audience who has to listen to you because they know they're going to be assessed. Can I give you 2 sessions about the red circle and then tell me if you need any more?" Okay. So we got on the red circle because you literally can't move around. She had five slides max. So there wasn't the opportunity for looking through her notes as she's reading through, etc., etc. And after the first session, she came back and said, "It is very different, isn't it?" I said, "Yes." "Shall we carry on?" "Yes, please." the different forms of speaking, and you've had experience of all of them. So that's lovely. That's lovely. So we covered your page, we've covered your stage. What you're working on, what you have been working on, is the book that got published yesterday. Give us another flash.
And you know what's really special about this book? Okay, something else that's really special. Jack Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul, he wrote the endorsement. This entire back page is Jack's endorsement. And I talked to someone and they said, you know, Jack normally doesn't write that much. Jack will give you 2 or 3 sentences. He's not going to give you 3 paragraphs. So yes, and Jack said that this book has the potential to transform the lives of families worldwide. Coming from Jack Canfield, that's pretty good. Yeah.
That's a big plus. You said you'd spent time with him on his tours.
I only went to Canada. This was years ago when he was giving his I think Self-Esteem 1 to a group in Canada, but a few of us who had been through all of his self-esteem seminars went with him.
Were you crewing?
6 or 5 of us. Pardon?
So were you crewing for the gang?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We were crewing for Jack, crewing for Jack Canfield, Mr. Self-Esteem.
Love it. Love it. Well, I mean, it's perfectly logical that you'd get him to do the endorsement, because self-esteem and the parenting stuff goes hand in hand. Yeah. Love it. Okay.
Right.
So you mentioned, go on.
Self-esteem is very important. You know, how you feel about yourself, what you think about yourself determines pretty much. I've seen so many people who have so much on the ball who apologize for themselves, and I can't figure out why. Why are you apologizing? No, you're not perfect. You're human. Of course you're not perfect. You don't need to apologize for that. You know, none of us are the brightest bulbs. We don't need to apologize for that. You know, Edison, when he was, you probably have heard this story, Wendy, when Edison was very young, he got sent home from school with a letter. I think he was like 4th grade or something. I mean, really young. And the letter said, your son's an idiot. We don't want him here, basically. But he did not know what it said. And he asked his mother, what's the letter say, Mom? And she said, they say that you are so far advanced that they can't teach you. So that I should keep you home and teach you myself, which she did. And he never saw the contents of that letter until his mother died and was going through her things. This is about Thomas Edison, the most prolific inventor.
Yes.
And Thomas Edison financed Henry Ford. If it wasn't for Thomas Edison giving him the money, Henry Ford, the inventor of the Ford automobile, would not have made the car. He didn't have the money. Edison bankrolled him.
Very good information.
Said was stupid.
Yeah. There are people, significant people in our lives when we're young, who can sow in very positive seeds, and others who sow in, frankly, not so positive seeds and can be very unhelpful. I mean, the blessings and curses, basically, and our words do make a big difference to people. And as you mentioned, the self-esteem thing is foundational.
That's right.
You can't build something that's not on a firm foundation. And if that's rocky, then the whole of life
Maslow's hierarchy. Pretty much after food and shelter comes belonging. You know, everyone wants to feel that they belong. They need to have that. And the only way out is through. You know, you can get to a point where other people's opinion doesn't hold as much weight or any weight anymore. But the only way to get there is to be liked in the beginning, to have relationships with people and to feel an affinity. So the only way out is through. A lot of people don't understand that saying. You have to go through finding people who like you, being liked, being disliked. You have to go through both of that to get to the other side to see what's really important to you. Some people, it's very important that they be socialized, that they have a lot of people around them at all times. Some people are loners and they can only be around people a certain amount of time. They can't take too much. but it's not, so everybody's different and we have to play to our strengths.
Yes. As I said, you mentioned to you earlier, I've worked with adults with autism for a long time. And I've got to the stage where if I see somebody, say in a communal dining area, if somebody's sitting on their own, I will actually ask them, would you like company? Or do you want time? Or are you all peopled out?
Right.
And sometimes they look at me and go,
Yeah.
golly, you can recognize that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, it's fine. I'll go sit somewhere else.
And what I tell little children and teenagers and adults too, if you're lonely, you go and you find someone who looks to you like they're alone, and you be their friend. If you're at school and you don't think you have friends, you find the person who you think is alone, and you go be their friend, and then neither of you will be lonely anymore.
Yeah, that's it. You give out what you want to receive. Beautiful.
And we're going back many, many years, Wendy. There used to be a place in St. Louis, Missouri called the Judavine Center for Autistic Children. It was the first one of its kind in the world. Doctors used to have to travel thousands, tens of thousands of miles to see an autistic child. I mean, that's how rare it was. And when I worked at the Judavine Center, we always had these two-way rooms, where you can look through. The child can't see that you're looking, can't see you, but you can see them. But anyway, I had one little guy, he was about 4, and we were finger painting. So he just had his hands there, was not moving his hands at all. And so I put my hands on top of his and moved to help him paint. And he said, let go. Let go. I think he said, let go of me. Let go of me. And I said, certainly, as soon as you start painting on your own, I will let go. Well, I didn't know it at the time, but the teachers told me later those were the first words the child had ever said in his life.
Yeah. He had a reason to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I could tell you a number of those tales. My background is in speech pathology and working with people with autism and also intellectual disability from basically cradle to grave. So yes, I've got a few tales that I could tell. Audience, if you're interested in that at any point, just message me and I can do a session of reminiscing about how people's communication starts to blossom when they have a need.
Mm.
Therein lies another tale entirely.
I bet.
Beautiful.
Yes, definitely. We know that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you've got your book out now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you mentioned earlier on in our introduction, there it is. Yes. You mentioned earlier on in our introduction that you're doing one for
teachers. I think the tentative name is Yes, You Can Teach. Yes, you can teach difficult children.
Nice.
It was going to be Yes, you can teach them all, but nobody can teach them all. But yes, you can teach difficult children, because I did teach many difficult children, and getting a difficult child on your side is something to feel good about,
isn't it? As you said, that could have been seen as a difficult child, but the fact that you negotiated, you appreciated his boundaries, and he appreciated yours.
Right, exactly.
He was on your side.
See them as a human. Right.
Yeah. Okay, so you got that coming up, and that's coming out next year, 25?
The teacher's book, yes. Yes, that'll be ready next year.
Well, who are you going to be? Because this is where I start thinking about, well, if you've got a date that you're setting for your anticipated publication, you work backwards and see, right now, how can I get onto podcasts that are aimed at teachers? How can I get onto summits? How can I get onto live stages that are aimed at teachers ahead of said release? So that when it comes to it, they all go, oh, no, who's that lady who was talking about, and what was it? Oh, yes. And they'll go out and get it. because you've been seeding that all the way along. Excellent. Just a little
You're
tip
so
there,
full of
audience.
wisdom and information. Thank you, Wendy. I just love listening to you.
Thank you. Thank you. So we've looked at your page, we've looked at your stage, we've got your wonderful book that's out yesterday.
I know, so exciting, isn't it? My goodness. And she said that it's released worldwide. So it's not just in Amazon America, it's Amazon
Oh, no.
Australia, Amazon
Yeah.
UK. It's everywhere. And not just
Yes.
Amazon. There are other outlets like Goodreads and stuff I don't even know about. It's very, very cool.
How exciting. How exciting. So the audience, if you are a parent, this is a book that you really do need to get hold of, and not just a copy for you, copy for your friends. So have a copy for you that you keep hold of as you'll flick through, as Martha said, keep it in the glove box or whatever you call that. Keep it somewhere where you can grab it easily. But you also take a second copy that you can give away, or at least loan, with the idea that it'll get passed on, because
Right.
this is a gold mine of information.
Give it
It's a
to
small
Grandma
book.
and Grandpa too.
There you go.
They could always use it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
And
there's a section in here, keeping your house safe, how to make the house safe for the children.
right.
Holidays are coming up right now. So a lot of people are going to be going to Grandma and Grandpa's house and other relatives. Now, how do you walk into a house and know if that house is going to be safe for your child? You're going to have to walk around. And I want to tell you something right now. Be very careful. Make sure there are no cords, extension cords laying around that are hooked to things that they shouldn't be. I know a terrible story of a child who got burned terribly because of an extension cord connected to a fryer that shouldn't have been. And at a family gathering, the grandmother told me the story, and it turned out to be it was because she had hooked up this fryer and had a long extension cord. The children were playing, and so it's a very sad story. So I don't want that to happen to anybody else. Do not hook those up incorrectly. Don't put them where the children are going to run into them. Make sure cords are not hanging down where a child could pull it down, the coffee pot or anything else where the dog could pull it down on him. Watch your knives and everything else. Make sure that the food is always put in the middle of the table where the children can't reach it. Just start looking around, looking at the corners of tables. The children are this tall and the corner of the table's right here. Put those corner protectors there. Keep your eyes open and look around when you go into other people's homes to make sure your child is safe. One time when my son was a baby, I put him down at somebody's house and he went right to the dog bowl and started eating the dog food.
If there's anybody who still puts a tablecloth on, watch
Oh,
out
good
for
one.
little people who find
Yes.
it really exciting to gently pull. Great fun, great fun. So as you say, it's an ideal book to hand on to other people as well, particularly with the holiday season coming up. Yeah,
And
beautiful.
there's even a section in the book on strengthening your marriage. So when you have children, there are certain things you have to do to make sure that you preserve that marital relationship.
Yes, because it's not all about the kids.
No, it's not all about the kids. In fact, the number one relationship is between husband and wife, and it really should be that way. And we have to be very careful that we don't set up our children to side with one parent against the other, because that happens sometimes. Sometimes, the child and mom will side against dad. The child and dad will side against mom. So you have to be very careful that mom and dad always are a united front.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? When a couple get together, before they go down the roads of having children, have they actually agreed on parenting styles? Because it's not just the two individuals, it's the families as well that are all coming together. And one family style may be different to another, and therein lies some tension for mum and dad from the in-laws.
And what percentage of couples even discuss it before the kids come along? No, as long as there's not abuse, you should let each parent have their own relationship, because dads are different than moms,
Mhm.
and kids need them both. You know, one
Yes.
man told a story of he had his grandson out on a little motorcycle. I think the grandson was 4, and he had a little gas-powered motorcycle that grandpa and dad had made for him, or set up for him. Well, the child was going round and round, and they were they live out rural. And the child came around and he stopped in front of grandpa, and grandpa said, "No, I don't think you're going fast enough. You want me to juice it up a little bit for you?" And of course the kid said yes. Well, you know, no mother ever would say, "Do you want to go faster?" But see, that's what dads are for. So he did. He juiced it up some more, and the kid got to go faster.
But the thing is, as you were saying, yes, there are different relationships, father and mother, but making sure that mum and dad are on the same page when it comes to these are the boundaries.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Otherwise,
very
the child.
quickly, one little
Mm-hmm.
person knows that if I don't get my way with one of them, I'll go to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that's where you can have some interesting
Right.
conversations.
Right, exactly. But otherwise, you have to let that one person have their relationship. The example I have is with an adult, but I have a friend, her adult son was going to AA, was just starting, had addiction problems, was going to meetings. But the family has some kind of special thing they do every year, and it was going to interfere with a meeting. So the dad said, "Look, I know AA is important to you, but you know, we only do this once a year. Could you go to your meeting tomorrow and come with us tonight? This is really important to us." And my girlfriend said, "You know, I told him he shouldn't have done that." And I said, here's my advice. Mind your business. Your husband's relationship with your son is their relationship. Your relationship is your relationship. You let those two decide what they want to do, and you decide what you two want to do.
Yeah. You do you. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you, Martha. Some wonderful insights there into the fact that, yes, both sides need to be on the same page, as in mother and father, on agreeing on what the boundaries are, also appreciating that mum's relationship and dad's relationship with little un is going to be different,
Exactly.
inevitably,
Exactly.
and
Yes,
rightly.
there are some boundaries you have to make, like bedtime. Okay, you know what?
Yes.
Mom and dad have got to say, okay, this is the bedtime. You're not gonna, no matter how much you push, mom and dad are united in this front. You must go to bed at this time, and that's that. The same with electronics. Okay.
Mhm.
I really recommend you do not let a child have electronics in their room, and I'm talking up until the age, probably until they're out of high school. Do not let them
Mhm.
have electronics in their room where you can't see what they're doing, because you do not know who's on the other side of that phone,
Yeah.
who they're talking to, what's going on. But not just that, they aren't getting the sleep they need if they are up scrolling TikTok, Facebook, whatever, all night
Mhm.
long, chat this and chat that, not to mention you don't know what's going on. And so, no, I would never allow a child to have a device in their bedroom, where,
Yeah.
in fact, anywhere where you can't be, where you don't know exactly what they're doing. They should only use devices in open rooms where everybody can see what they're doing and who they're talking to.
Yeah. And as parents, modeling that as well.
Mm, yes, yes, yes. Too many parents are on their devices too much. In fact, you're hearing now of children, you know, I wish my mom would put her phone down. I wish my dad was put his phone down. Yes. And we're adults, and I find myself sometimes scrolling, scrolling and thinking to myself, you're wasting time here. Put it down. So you really have to start setting up a schedule. Otherwise, you're going to
Mm.
lose all your time and get nothing done, because
Yeah.
these devices are made to be so reinforcing that you can't put them down. It's kind of like potato chips and, you know, snack cakes and things. They're purposely made so that you can't put them down and that you will
Mhm.
overeat.
Exactly. Exactly. I think they did quite a lot of research, Facebook, I believe, in terms of the tone of the alert. That the actual resonant frequency is one that really resonates with your dopamine center.
Wow. Wow.
That's how much they've gone into this, guys.
Mm. Wow.
So if you think you're not being manipulated, think again.
Think
Think
again.
again. Mm.
Yes. Yes.
This podcast might get taken down for saying something like that. Radical, radical. Okay. So we talked about the page, we talked about the stage, we talked about this wonderful book that came out yesterday.
Yes.
Now
Yes.
I'm going to ask you, there it is, yay! I'm going to ask you, how do you embody your words when you take them from page to stage with all that wonderful speaking opportunities that you have done and you are doing for promoting your book? Tell us about how you embody those words.
Well, I definitely, I like to have a lot of stories. I love stories. I like to, illustrate how things work and how to do things. I love to use songs. Okay. I love to use songs. And let me give you an example. All right. There's this country song. What's the guy's name? Hardy. Okay. And he sings a song called, I woke up on the wrong side of the truck bed this morning with a bone dry bottle of Jack I was pouring. And so I'm singing that all the time. I'm going on, I'm singing that song like, Martha, that's a negative song. That's promoting alcoholism and being an idiot. You know, but I was like, but I really like that tune. I've got to change that because I know I'm going to be singing that tune. I like that tune. So I changed it to I woke up on the right side of the bed this morning with a gratitude list in my head.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Well, as you point out that when tunes are inevitably linked with words, that's how we remember songs. But that both sides of the brain, because you've got the left-hand side of the, as you're looking at this, the left-hand side of the brain dealing with the language and the right-hand side of the brain with the music side. You've got those crossovers in your brain and you're using more of your brain power. It's going to stick because you've got both sides. Audience, I wonder how many of you can remember jingles, advertising jingles from when you were small children, because that repetition of both words and tune together sticks in the memory far more. So absolutely love the idea that you're coming up with there. Having tunes, having songs that you can point out, hello, those lyrics aren't that helpful. How can we switch them up? I love that, Martha. Great job.
Well, thank you.
Do you do that way? Do you do that as part of your talks?
Oh yes, I do that as part of my talks, and yeah, I like to sing. I took piano lessons when I was 62 for the first time in my life, and my teacher was an elementary school teacher. She owned a music store, so come Christmas time, she said, "I want you to be in the Christmas recital." Well, all her other students were children. I said, well, okay, why not? So I was learning Shania Twain's From This Moment, which is really lovely. From this moment, anyway. So I practiced and practiced and practiced. So came recital day. I came after the 5-year-old, and she was pretty good. And before the 10-year-old who wrote his own music. The guy was great. But anyway, so I played my part and I did it very well. And a lot of parents and grandparents came up to me and said, you have really inspired me. I've always wanted to learn this. I've always wanted to learn that. And because you're up here playing piano with these kids, I think I'm going to try it now. So that was good.
Go you, go you. That's the point, isn't it? We're never too old to start something.
Alive. Did you see those videos of that gymnast who's 98 years old?
Yes.
Doing gymnastics? If she can please, if she can do it, we can all at least be walking around the block.
Exactly. Wonderful, amazing. If I was that limber, if I'm that lithe and limber a few years down the track, I will be very happy, very happy. Right, we've covered full circle. Is there anything we missed off?
Oh goodness, I could tell you how I lost 50 pounds walking my dog.
Okay, I'm just aware of time here, so I'm going to ask you final words. Have you got any gems of wisdom to share with us?
Most definitely. The first thing, I have a parenting method. I call it the 3 L's of parenting. Love them enough to say no. It's very important. If you don't say no to your children, you're crippling them. You're crippling them. Lead them by example. Stop telling them what to do, and you just be the good example. And of course, let them fail. Let them do things and screw up and get dirty and messy, and let them fail and let them be disappointed. Otherwise, they're going to grow up and continually be disappointed and frustrated and annoyed.
Yeah. Yes, because otherwise you get this sense of entitlement, and then when life does not give you what you feel entitled to, as you say, there's that sense of disappointment, frustration, anxiety, and that's not doing any mental health any good. Yeah.
Right.
So lead by example, love them enough to say no, and let them do it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. We could talk all night, really, Martha, couldn't we? But I have loved this conversation, and thank you so much for sharing your From Page to Stage.
Thank you, Wendy. It was great.
Bye from us.
Bye.